You guys should sit down now, okay? I know you thought we were going to come out here limping, didn't you?
That accident, that tore us apart.
That was horrible. That's when I quit.
Did you know that the Dells were one of the greatest R&B groups of all time? But behind their success, they faced many struggles. What really happened to the members of this legendary group? They had fame, but their lives were not easy. Some faced serious health problems. Others passed away too soon. How did their journey end? Their story is full of talent, pain, and heartbreak.
You hurt me, so darling, stay.
The Dells were one of the greatest music groups of all time. They started in a small town called Harvey, just south of Chicago. It all began at Thornton Township High School in the early 1950s. 5 young men who loved music decided to come together and sing. One of the members, Marvin Jr., had a mother who was very religious. She was a Seventh-day Adventist and did not allow certain kinds of music in the house. But she did let the boys take a record player and put it in the woodshed. There, they listened to great harmony groups like the Clovers, the Moonglows, the Five Keys, and the Dominoes. They practiced singing along and learned how to harmonize. One day, they had an idea. Why not form their own group?
And just so happened one was a baritone, one was a tenor, and one song.
The first name that we came up with was called the L-Rays.
They needed a name. The first name they came up with was the L-Rays. The group members were Michael Mickey McGill, baritone, Chuck Barksdale, bass, Vern Allison, tenor, Johnny Funches, tenor, and Marvin Jr., baritone. At first, they just sang for fun. They went to small parties and sang in their neighborhood, but they weren't very good yet.
We started bouncing around the neighborhood, going to these little parties, trying to sing, and they was booing us.
We couldn't sing a lick.
They thought singing would help them meet girls, but no one paid them much attention. The L-Rays kept practicing. They performed at talent shows, parties, and even at the local ice cream shop. One of their favorite places to sing was under a viaduct on 147th Street. The viaduct made their voices echo, creating a beautiful sound. But there was a problem. They had to stand in the middle because if they stood on the side, someone might try to pee on them. All that practice made them want to record a song. They went to South Michigan Avenue, a place known as Record Row. If you had talent, you could walk into a record company and ask for an audition. The L-Rays went to Chess Records, run by Leonard Chess. They told him they were a singing group, and surprisingly, he gave them a chance. They recorded their first song, Christine, with another song, Darling I Know, on the other side of the record. But they later admitted that Darling I Know was one of the worst songs ever recorded. Even though the song wasn't great, it was their first step into the music industry. Marvin Jr. had a tough start. One day, a man told him, "Marvin, I like you, but you're not a singer. You don't have the voice." Those words hurt Marvin deeply. He was part of the group, but after their first record did not sell well, he left for a short time. The group was struggling and they needed a fresh start.
Leonard Chess pulled me on the side and told me, "Look, Marvin, I like you." He said, "But you're not a singer. You don't have the voice." It hurt me so bad, I quit the group.
They decided to go to VJ Records, a music label owned by Vivian Carter and Jimmy Bracken. Vivian had an idea. She told them, "You need to change your name." So they put different names in a hat and picked one. That's how they became the Dells. It was a short name, easy to remember, and perfect for a music group. Then came the big moment. They recorded Oh What a Night. That song changed everything. It became a huge hit. Vivian Carter loved it, and soon the whole country did too. In New York City, the song was everywhere. People played it all day long. It was so big that it brought the Dells to the famous Apollo Theater.
It was so big, man. You walk down the street, you hear this record all day long.
That's the one that got us to New York, to the Apollo.
The Apollo Theater was a big deal. It was the gateway to show business. If you performed there and failed, you had to go home. They would pay you and send you away, saying you were not ready. There were no second chances. You had to be great from the start. When the Dells performed, they made it. They were accepted. It was one of the best moments of their lives. Performing at the Apollo proved that they had what it took to succeed in the music industry.
That accident, that tore us apart.
That was horrible. That's when I quit.
But then came tragedy. On November 21st, 1958, the Dells were in a serious car accident on the Ohio Turnpike. Their station wagon had a tire blowout. Johnny Funches, who was driving, lost control. Michael "Mickey" McGill was badly injured. He spent 6 months in the hospital. Even though the other members were not hurt, the accident changed everything. The group broke up. It was a heartbreaking time for them. They had worked so hard to get to this point, and now it seemed like their dream was over. Life became hard. They were not getting paid enough for their music, and they were struggling. Everything seemed unfair. When they returned home, they decided to go their separate ways. It was one of the worst times in their lives. They had to figure out how to survive without the group. Mickey McGill spent 6 long months in the hospital. When he got out, he went back to his hometown and married his high school sweetheart, Rose. Marvin Jr. and Johnny Funches got factory jobs. Vernon Chuck Barksdale tried to stay in the music industry, but deep down, they all missed singing together. They had a bond that could not be broken, even by the worst hardships. Mickey kept thinking, what am I doing in this factory? He knew he belonged in music. After some time, the group decided to reunite. They felt stronger than before. The accident had brought them closer. Their bond was now unbreakable. They knew they had to give their dreams another chance.
I just kept thinking, what am I doing in this factory? So we got back together after that.
By 1961, the Dells were back. They wanted to prove that they still had what it took. Then, they got a big opportunity. They auditioned to be backup singers for the legendary Dinah Washington. She was a famous singer, and she wanted a new group to travel with her on tour. When she heard the Dells sing, she fell in love with their voices. She knew they were special. This was the break they needed to get back on track.
Don't let me down, I have no time to waste.
But there was a problem. Johnny Funches, the only member with children, decided he could not go on the road. He told the group, I'm not going. He wanted to stay home and take care of his family. The other members were upset at first, but later they understood. It was a big sacrifice, but he made the right choice for his kids. Family was important, and they respected his decision.
He stayed home to take care of his children. I thought that was quite admirable. We were kind of teed off at him at the time.
They needed a replacement for Johnny. That's when they remembered someone special. They reached out to a singer they admired, and soon the Dells were complete again. They were ready to move forward. Johnny Carter was a founding member of the Flamingos, one of the greatest doo-wop groups of all time. He had a smooth voice and a love for music, but his journey was not easy. When he was young and just starting his music career, he got drafted into the Army. That meant he had to leave the group and serve his country. When he finally came back, he wanted to return to the Flamingos. But things had changed, and they did not let him back in the group. It was tough, but Johnny did not give up on his music dreams. After leaving the Flamingos, Johnny started spending time at a local tavern called The Esquire. This was a place where musicians and singers hung out. One day, a group of guys who were forming a singing group found Johnny at the tavern. They knew he had an amazing voice, and they wanted him in their group. So, they literally grabbed him and convinced him to join them. They told him they were leaving the next day and wanted him to come along. Johnny hit a few notes with them, and it was clear that he still had that special sound. The group was excited, and just like that, Johnny was back in the music world. Johnny Carter became a member of the Dells. It was a perfect match. Johnny and another member, Charlie, were the same size, had similar voices, and even had the same name. Johnny! The group asked him to sing one song, and he gave it his all. Everyone loved it. The next thing Johnny knew, he was on a plane heading to Philadelphia with his new group. That moment changed his life. That was 45 years ago, and the rest is musical history.
Guess what else? Him and Johnny Funches were the same size and sung the same voice and had the same name, Johnny.
The Dells finally found their perfect team, with Johnny Carter as the final member. After that, they hit the road with the great jazz and R&B singer, Dinah Washington. Dinah was a powerful woman in the music industry. She had a big personality and was not easy to work with, but she was incredibly talented. She taught the Dells a lot about music and show business. Dinah Washington was both inspiring and difficult. Sometimes she would get mad and fire people from her band, only to bring them back the next day. She was tough, but she was also a perfectionist. She wanted everything to be just right. Even though working with her was challenging, the Dells respected her talent. They learned a lot from her, and she helped them become better musicians.
You know, most people don't realize that the Dells can sing jazz as well as they can sing doo-wop.
Dinah could sing a song perfectly without needing any music to guide her. She had a natural gift.
Dinah could sing a song and nobody play any music, and she'd be in a perfect key.
Her perfectionism helped the Dells improve their own skills. Being around her for 2 years was like going to school for music. She taught them discipline, stage presence, and vocal skills. She helped turn them into jazz artists, even though they were known for doo-wop and R&B. The Dells were used to singing doo-wop, where one lead singer was backed by harmonies. But with Dinah, they learned to sing jazz, which was completely different. People were surprised that the Dells could sing jazz so well. One of their biggest highlights was when they performed a jazz show and the Four Freshmen, a famous jazz group, came to talk to them after. The Four Freshmen were impressed. They thought the Dells had been trained at a music school. They couldn't believe that the Dells had learned jazz just by working with Dinah Washington and their vocal coach. After working with Dinah Washington, the Dells got another big opportunity. In 1966, they were chosen to be the opening act for the legendary Ray Charles. This was a huge deal. Ray Charles was one of the biggest stars in the music world. Touring with him was an honor, but it wasn't easy. Ray Charles was strict about everything. He didn't talk to people much. Instead, his road manager handled everything. Even though they didn't get to know Ray Charles personally, the Dells learned a lot from watching him. One of their most unforgettable moments was performing at Carnegie Hall in New York. It was a big venue, and they weren't sure how the audience would react, but when they went on stage, they blew everyone away. The crowd gave them 5 standing ovations. It was one of the greatest nights of their career.
So the next night, Ray Charles, road manager, told us, when do you guys want to leave the show? Because we're going to be in Peoria tomorrow.
One night, the Dells were performing, and Ray Charles's road manager asked them, "When do you guys want to leave the show?" They were supposed to go to Peoria the next day. Later, the manager came back and said, "We want to drop you off somewhere." The group was shocked. They had just received a standing ovation from the crowd, but now it seemed like they were being fired. It was a confusing and disappointing moment, but later, Ray Charles himself congratulated them in person when they became successful. That showed that even though they were let go, their talent was undeniable. The Dells had over 40 hit songs in their career. Their big breakthrough came in 1967 with the song "There Is," written by Bobby Miller. Miller was a talented songwriter who helped shape their sound. He also wrote another major hit for them, which became even bigger when it was re-released in 1968. That song pushed their career to new heights. Interestingly, they almost didn't record it again. They needed one more song for their album, so they decided to redo "Stay in My Corner." It turned out to be one of their most famous songs. When they recorded "Stay in My Corner," they wanted to make it special. One of the members, Marvin, had a powerful voice. They decided to let him hold a long note to make the song stand out. At first, they didn't know how long he could hold it, but when he started, he held the note for so long that people were amazed. He kept going, and at one point, someone told him, "Breathe, man, you're going to pass out." That note became legendary. It was one of the longest sustained notes in music history. Radio DJs even joked that they could go home, eat lunch, play with their kids, and come back before the note ended. That long note made "Stay in My Corner" a huge hit. The song sold over 4 million copies. Another massive hit for the Dells was "Oh What a Night." The song was written by Johnny Funches and Marvin Jr. The inspiration came from a fun night after a performance. After their show, they went to a party where 5 female fans had prepared food and drinks for them. They had fried chicken, whiskey, and beer. It was a night to remember. The next day, they kept talking about how great the party was. One of them said, "Man, what a night!" Johnny repeated the words, "Oh, what a night." That was how the song was born.
Oh, what a night.
"Oh, What a Night" was first released in 1956 and reached number 4 on the charts, but it became even bigger when they re-released it in 1969. This time, it went to number 1 on the R&B charts and reached the top 10 on the pop charts. The 1969 version was arranged by Charles Stepney, who later worked with Earth, Wind and Fire. Stepney helped create some of the group's biggest hits, including "The Love We Had Stays on My Mind." "The Love We Had Stays on My Mind" was another special song. It was written by Larry Wade and Terry Callier. The lyrics were emotional and talked about love, heartbreak, and regret. Marvin Jr.'s voice was full of deep emotion, making the song unforgettable. The way the Dells sang about relationships made their music relatable to fans. People felt their pain, joy, and passion in every song. The Dells were a famous singing group loved by many people. They sang beautiful songs for 60 years, but in the end, health problems made it hard for them to continue. As people get older, their bodies get weak, and sickness can stop them from doing what they love. This is what happened to the group's lead singer, Marvin Jr., and bass singer, Chuck Barksdale. Their health got so bad that they had to stop singing. When they left, it was clear that the group could not go on without them. Over the years, the group lost many important members. Johnny Funches was the original lead singer when the group started. He had a great voice and helped make the Dells successful. Sadly, he got very sick with pneumonia, a serious lung infection, and passed away. Losing him was painful for his family, friends, and fans. His voice was special, and many people still remember his songs. After Funches left the group, Johnny Carter took his place. He stayed with the Dells for many years and became a key member. He had a smooth voice that people loved, but as time went on, his health got worse. He battled cancer, a terrible disease that takes many lives. Even though he fought hard, he could not win the battle. He passed away, leaving behind great music and memories. Marvin Jr. was one of the original members of the Dells. He had a deep, strong voice that made their music special. But as he got older, his health started to fail. His kidneys stopped working properly and his heart became weak. One night, while he was sleeping, his body could not fight anymore. He passed away peacefully, leaving a big hole in the music world. Chuck Barksdale was also a big part of the Dells. His deep bass voice made their songs even more powerful. But like the others, his health started to fail. He had been sick for a long time before his body finally gave up. When he passed away, it was another sad day for music lovers. The Dells had an amazing career, but sickness and old age took their toll. Even though the group is gone, their music will live forever.
You guys can sit down now, okay? I know you thought we were going to come out here limping, didn't you?
One of the most famous songs by the Dells is "A Heart is a House for Love." This song became even more popular after the movie The 5 Heartbeats was released. The song is full of deep emotions, strong vocals, and powerful lyrics. It talks about love, struggles, and feelings that everyone can understand. The music, the rhythm, and the words fit together perfectly, making it a song that fans loved from the first time they heard it. Even after so many years, people still listen to it and it remains one of their best songs. For over 50 years, the Dells gave their fans amazing music. They were not just a singing group, they were like family. Their connection was deep and they shared a strong bond that lasted for decades. That special relationship made their music even more powerful. When they sang, you could hear the love and dedication in their voices. This is what made them one of the greatest R&B groups in history. Their songs touch people's hearts, and even today, their music still has the same effect.
To watch them, it is unbelievable. I feel privileged.
To see people still react to that.
In 2004, the Dells received a great honor when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This was a very important moment for them. They had been making music for many years, and now they were finally getting the recognition they deserved. It was a proud time not only for them, but also for their families and fans. During the ceremony, one of the group members spoke from the heart. He said, "We have all of our family here tonight, and next to God, this is the most important thing to us, our family." These words showed how much their loved ones meant to them and how much they valued the moment. As they stood on the stage, tears filled their eyes. They felt so many emotions at once: happiness, pride, and gratitude. It was a moment that they had waited for, and now it was finally happening. The audience knew how much the Dells deserved this honor, and they showed their love by giving them a long-standing ovation. Everyone in the room stood up, clapping and cheering for them. It was a moment of pure respect, and it was clear that the music industry had not forgotten the incredible work the Dells had done over the years. Johnny Carter, one of the members of the Dells, had already been inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2001 with another group, the Flamingos. But for the Dells, the journey to the Hall of Fame had taken much longer. They had been nominated 9 times before they were finally accepted. Many people believe they should have been honored much earlier. Some even joked that when the Hall of Fame was built, the Dells should have been the first in line. This showed how much they had contributed to music and how much respect they had earned. Unfortunately, not everyone realized just how important the Dells were to R&B music. Sometimes, the world forgets about great artists from the past. But people who grew up listening to the Dells know how special their music was. Even though they didn't always get the attention they deserved, maybe that was a good thing. If they had become too famous too soon, things might have been different. Maybe their group wouldn't have lasted as long. But because they stayed focused on their music and their bond, they kept going strong for over 50 years. Their fans loved them deeply, and that love never faded. The Dells had a special connection that few groups have. They weren't just bandmates, they were brothers. Of course, they had arguments just like any family does. They sometimes got annoyed with each other, but they always found a way to work things out. They stayed together longer than most marriages. That kind of loyalty and friendship is rare, and it is part of what made them great. Their love for each other made their music even more meaningful. Celebrating 50 years as a group was a huge achievement. Other musicians like the Whispers and the OJs have said that the Dells paved the way for them. They inspired so many artists who came after them. The Dells changed the world of R&B music, and their impact will never be forgotten. Their music, their friendship, and their legacy will live on forever.